the state of Mississippi. Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie.
In this procedure, 200 milliliters of water was put in the 400 milliliter beaker, then heated on the hot plate to 70 degrees Celsius. 2 grams of salicylic acid was then placed in the 125 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. Next, 4 milliliters of acetic anhydride and 7 drops of 85% phosphoric acid was added to the Erlenmeyer flask. The flask was then swirled and placed in the hot water bath for about 10 minutes.
Just another way to survive. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess from your priest.
Next, we added 10 grams of ice to the flask, which was then placed in an ice bath and allowed to cool for about 10 minutes. The Buchner funnel, special flask, and rubber tubing was set up to create the vacuum filtration apparatus. The filter paper was then placed in the funnel and then moistened.
With the name like day in California, day was gonna come when I was gonna moan ya. A little loaded, she was stealing another breath. I love my baby today.
The vacuum filtration apparatus was then allowed to run until completion. The remaining crystals were rinsed out of the funnel and collected for drying. The sample was allowed to dry overnight. 3 test tubes were then filled halfway with water and placed in the test tube rack. A small amount of salicylic acid was dissolved in the first test tube, the synthesized aspirin in the second, and nothing in the last, serving as a control. Finally comes the ferric chloride test, where 6 drops of 1% ferric chloride was added to all 3 of these test tubes, and the observed colors were then recorded.
Push the beta, gifted animator, 1 for the now and 11 for the later. Never made it up to Minnesota. North Dakota man was a gunner for the quota. Down in the Badlands, she was saving the best for last. It only hurts when I laugh. Gone too fast. California.
In this procedure, the 1 liter plastic bottle was filled about halfway full with distilled water, then 4 grams of NaOH were added. The bottle was filled to the 1 liter mark with distilled water and then was shaken until all the NaOH was dissolved. A burette of the NaOH solution was prepared and the starting volume was recorded. The KHP was weighed out, the sample ranging from 0.4 grams to 0.6 grams, and the sample was then put in the Erlenmeyer flask and dissolved in 50 milliliters of distilled water. Then 2 drops of phenolphthalein were added to the KHP solution. The KHP was titrated by the NaOH solution until a faint pink color remained. The final volume of the burette was recorded. This titration was repeated 2 more times with the sample of KHP.
The 500 milliliter plastic bottle was filled with halfway with distilled water. Then about 17 milliliters of 3 molar hydrochloric acid was added to the plastic bottle, which was then filled to the 500 milliliter mark. After that, a burette for the hydrochloric acid was prepared, in addition to a burette for the sodium hydroxide. About 20 milliliters of acid was run off into the Erlenmeyer flask, and 3 drops of bromothymol blue was added. The mixture was then titrated to a faint green with the base. This was repeated 2 more times to ensure the titration.
following big. Choose not a life of imitation. Distant us into the reservation. Defunk the pistol that you pay for. This punk the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the West End. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go write your message on the pavement.
In the final procedure, 0.5 grams of the aspirin was weighed out, then put in the 250 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. 2 burettes, one for acid and one for base, were prepared and then labeled. The burettes were filled and the starting reading was reported. 25 milliliters of cold ethanol was then added to the Erlenmeyer flask and swirled until the aspirin was dissolved. 2 drops of phenolphthalein was added to the solution, which was titrated to a faint pink by the base.
Tell me when it's time to. Sweetheart is bleeding in the snow cone. So smart she's leading me to ozone. Music, the great communicator. Use 2 sticks to make it in the nature. I'll get you into penetration. The gender of a generation. The birth of every other nation.
The base burette was refilled to about 0 milliliters and the value was recorded. The amount of base added in step 5 was added again, in addition to another 15 milliliters. The flask was then heated in a boiling water bath for about 15 minutes. The flask was cooled to room temperature, and the initial volume of HCl was recorded. And the excess base was back titrated until the pink disappeared. The volume used was recorded.
To be part of the wave can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you?